Hi there, this is Nicola and welcome to my channel, Forever Young Autobiographies. It's the place where we learn to write life stories for families and friends so that unique memories can live on for future generations. Welcome to my channel if you're new. I'd love to have you subscribe and hopefully like this video. Today's topic is about what makes a good story. We're going to be exploring suspense writing, dialogue writing and other writing techniques. So let's jump into it. Now I like to begin with a bit of a story. In our house we have a bit of a hand signal when someone is labouring with a story. It's not getting to the point, it's getting boring. So we usually do that one to wrap it up. Come on, get to the point. You know, if you're waiting there being lectured at, you might think about going to another room or just tuning out altogether. And there's similarities with that. If you're writing an autobiography or a memoir, you can sometimes go off on a tangent which is not interesting for your audience. So this begs the question, what can we do to keep things from not being too boring? So let's jump into it. Point number one I've got for you today is just to make sure you have a good foundation for your writing before you use these techniques. And now I'm thinking about who are you writing for and why are you writing for. So if you have that clear in your mind, who do you expect is going to read this? You know, is it your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, other members of the family or friends, that kind of thing, or is it for a wider publication? That will help set your focus for what stories to include and what to leave out, not to keep it boring. Another thing is why. Why are you writing this? There's many different motivating factors that people want to write, so have that clear in your head. And like we talked about last week, we want to know if we've got a guiding message. What's your theme for this project? Maybe you have a big major one, maybe you have some minor ones as well. So if you've got that all sorted in your mind, who you're writing for, why you're writing, what's your sort of main theme or message, then that's a really great foundation. It gives context for then using these techniques, which, by the way, are quite common in fictional books and also movies. So yeah, we're not reinventing the wheel here, we're just borrowing some other techniques. So number one would be dialogue. Now dialogue is writing what people say. Now I work in newspapers and we quote people in every single story, usually both sides, especially both sides of a topic to give balance. And everything has to be completely accurate or we get into big strife. So, but how is that different for writing in an autobiography or a memoir? Now, of course, if you add what people say, their dialogue, it's going to add colour, it's going to add a great breakup of your text, it's going to add a lot of dynamics. So it's really, really great tool to use. It's probably the number one tool you can use. You don't have to do massive, big sections of dialogue, just a few key phrases, a few key pars or paragraphs, sentences. That's all that you really need. Now, not only is that good because you can move the story along, but it can also give a great example of another character's point of view of a situation. And by them telling a situation or explaining their point of view, you get a bit of an insight into their character. So that's really good. Now, when you're writing your dialogue, just keep in mind that it should be accurate, but when we're thinking about things decades ago, sometimes you can't fact check. Like it's not easily done. Sometimes these people have died. It's really difficult. So I would suggest probably just giving your best interpretation or best memory of how things were said. As long as it's in the spirit of what was said, I think that's perfectly acceptable. So yeah, keep it short and do your best to remember exactly what was said, but if you can't, an approximation is fine. Now, the second technique that we can use to make our stories interesting would be to add descriptions. Now, great descriptions, especially for characters and settings, will make your writing really interesting. Now, I'm not giving you permission to write really long, flowing descriptions. Just notable, memorable detail will do the trick. So, for an example, say you're describing the outside of your childhood home where you grew up. You're not going to then describe what the long grass in the paddock next to your house looked at different seasons of the year and how it bent in the wind and all that kind of stuff. You're going to get massively sidetracked. It's not interesting. Your reader will probably want to know, okay, basically what was your house look like? Was there anything unusual? What was the garden like? What was the layout of the rooms like? Who were your neighbours? What were they like? What was the neighbourhood like? Was there anything you liked or you hated about the area? Something along those lines. Keep it descriptions on point so that you're showing your audience the story. So that would be, descriptions. Now, if you're a bit rusty on some of those descriptions or those details, think outside the square. For example, in Australia, we have the National Library of Australia, and on there they've got I suppose it's a portal called Trove. And in Trove, there's hundreds of digitalised newspapers going back hundreds of years. And if you have a specific event or milestone that you think might have been documented in the paper for your town or wherever you grew up or lived, you can go back in just using a keyword. You can search by dates, by specific publications. It's just amazing what you've got going on in there. So have a look. You never know what extra details you're going to pull up and find. I've done this countless times when I'm helping my grandmother write her autobiography. You can just, you can uncover a lot of extra details. Say, for example, maybe there's a royal visit came to your city when you're a small child. You maybe have limited memories of that, but if you go back into Trove, you can pull up the article from the day, and the journalist there probably detailed a lot of extra stuff that you probably wouldn't have remembered. But yeah, it's all on the record, and you can perfectly fine to just pick and choose which bits you want to include in your autobiography and just illuminate your story. So that's the second major technique, would be descriptions. Now, the third one would be suspense. Now, we're probably all aware of this when we're watching movies, especially anything to do with detectives. You know, there's a suspense factor. And you can do the same with your biography or memoir project. It's all about just sprinkling in little facts. So you're not giving away the big surprise or the big act. You're just a little bit of information here, a little bit there, and you're leaving your audience guessing a bit, like wanting to know, oh, keep watching or keep reading to find out what's the big reveal, so to speak. An example of this would be, say you're writing about your childhood, and in year one you meet the love of your life, maybe it's Betty, and you later get married, and you're married for 50 odd years and very happily. Now, are you going to say, oh, I met Betty in year one and I sat next to her and she became the love of my life, married for 50 years? Like, you've just given the game away. Like, people will go, oh, okay. But if you'd probably just said, oh, in this class I met Betty, she had blonde pigtails with red ribbons, you might sprinkle a little bit in that early section, and then you might have another anecdote a bit further on saying, oh, I really didn't like it when the boys put Betty's hair in the inkwells, and as a practical joke. And then a bit later you might have, Betty was friends with your group of friends on holidays and you used to play tennis all together, and when all the others had had enough of tennis, you and Betty used to keep playing along competitively. And by now the reader's probably going, oh, who's this Betty? Who's this Betty lady? We want to know a bit more about her. She must be important. What's going to happen? I want to keep reading. So just sprinkle in little facts, little parts of the story, and lead up to the big, we got married or engaged kind of thing. So just sprinkle it along, just tease your reader, get them to keep reading. So yeah, just to recap, I'll go over that. There's three main ways that you can keep your audience entertained or interested in your story. And first of all, make sure you get your who and your why and your key reasons, like make sure they're sound. So you can use number one would be dialogue, and then number two would be good descriptions, whether that's characters or settings, and number three would be suspense. So using all those, you should be able to make a non-boring memoir or autobiography. So that's three amazing ways to do that. If you'd like more detail, I go into all of that on my website. There's a blog with this title on there, an article, and much more detail for you at foreveryoungautobiographies.com. And for viewers, I've also got a free training for you that can help you when you're starting your autobiography. I'll leave the description in the box below, but basically it's a couple of exercises which I run through on a short video, and we sort of brainstorm and nut out the main memories that you want to include in your story. So that gives you almost like a chapter outline. It's a good structure to sort of guide you in your writing. So yeah, be sure to sign up for that one. It's totally free, so again in the description box below. But I'd be really interested to hear what you thought of this video. You can leave a comment down below. I'd especially like to hear what writing techniques that you find useful, and perhaps which one of those that I've mentioned today that you'd like to use. So yeah, put that down below. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe for more videos like this. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps people find the channel. So until next time, thanks for watching and happy writing.